こんにちは、明治学院大学の服部です。今、私はですねデンマークの首都のコペンハーゲンというところにいるんですけれども、これからですね、コペンハーゲンを拠点にですね、世界中でも活躍している、世界中で引っ張りだこのですね、都市デザイナーヤンゲール氏さんに、都市の魅力とは一体何ぞやというですね、非常に根源的なテーマについてお話を伺いに行きたいと思っております。どういうお話が聞けるかちょっと楽しみですけれども、ぜひともですね皆さんも期待して見ていただければと思います。
I met when I was publishing the book in Vietnamese. I was in Hanoi, and I met in the Danish embassy a Vietnamese lady. She's just been to Copenhagen. And she came to me and said, I've just been in Copenhagen. Tell me, do you have a baby boom in Copenhagen? Baby boom? No. We have problems in reproducing ourselves. We have no baby boom. She couldn't understand that. And then I realized that when she was in Copenhagen, she saw something she did not see in Vietnam. She saw a lot of children on the streets. She said, there's a lot of children on the streets in Denmark. There are lots of baby prams. And then there are many children being transported in cargo bikes. And then there are children bicycling on the side, on the bicycle lanes. Then there are children walking to school. And actually, if you add it all up, there's a lot of children on the streets in Copenhagen. You see the children. In Vietnam, you don't see the children because the city is too unattractive. You cannot take your children out in the city because it's too noisy and too polluted and whatever.
Dangerous.
So, one definition, an attractive city, or if you see a city with many children and old people on the streets, it's an attractive and high quality city. 30 years ago, everybody was looking to the suburbs to get away from the bad city. Now everybody is trying to get away from the suburbs into the city, which is not bad anymore. It's nice, and it's got many economic and social and cultural opportunities, and short distances, and you can bicycle, and you have good public transportation. So instead of sitting out there in the suburbs saying, "Oh, lucky me, I got away from the bad city with all the factories and the bad air and traffic, noise, whatever pollution," I got out in the suburbs. Felt wonderful. Now they're looking at the wonderful city, saying, "What am I doing in the suburb?" Yeah. That's from all over the world. We can see this change. One example is the Harbour Front. It used to be full of ships and full of drunken sailors and prostitutes and drinking and dust and coal and it was industry. The whole city was turning the back to the harbor. Now all the ships are gone, and there is a container terminal outside all cities. And then the whole city is turning towards the harbor because that's the most attractive place in the city. That is being close to the city center and close to the water or nature.
So when do you think was the turning point of
Yeah, we discussed that. I think it was around 1990.
1990?
And it is something about the development of industry, the way we produce things, that instead of all these small factories, we have bigger factories which are located outside the city, next to the freeways and railways. In the old days, they were all located in the city. And also it was because there was this focus on the suburbs was conditioned by the cheap gasoline and the automobile. So the automobile started in great numbers around 1960, and that was the beginning of this big, great exodus away from the city. Now we can go out to the suburbs and we can travel to and from. But by the 90s, there were so many on the roads that you were sitting there and you again ask, what am I sitting here in the car for 2-3 hours a day when I could live in the city and walk over there and use my life in another way. So it has to do also with the shift in economy, shift in production, shift in transportation. This is universal. It's also in Japan. This thing that the cities have become better quality, more attractive, and a better place to live, and more people want to live in the cities. So there was a time when the number of people in the cities were going down, but for many years now it's been going up and up and up.
Even US city.
Even USA. I have some figures from, say, Philadelphia, just to mention one.
But it seems there's some cities seems to be doing better than other cities.
That is correct, because we have this macro game. Macro.
Yes.
That the general development in the Western society of economy and industry and transport, whatever, and this focus on the suburbs and the expansion of the cities, and then this change that the bad city becomes a good city, and that people want to live in a good city where you have many social, economic, and cultural services and opportunities. So it's something about the quality of the city, which used to be bad, but now is increasing in quality all the time. That is about that it becomes more attractive. And then some cities, like maybe also Copenhagen, they have been very quick. They for various reasons, they started very early with this upgrading of quality. And for me, it is very interesting that in a city like Copenhagen, they have done very much to improve the quality of the public realm. They have made public spaces, they have taken traffic out of streets and squares and taken parking out, given spaces to people, and that they have done in the center city, and they started 50 years ago, and they have continuously improved because people like it, and that's part of the quality. So they have done more, and now they are expanding it to all parts of the city. They make nice public spaces in outer city districts, not in Copenhagen is not about suburbs, because Copenhagen is the inner part of Greater Copenhagen, but they have this policy: we will be the best city for people in the world. And they made this policy in 2009, and actually it was our firm who was advising them for this. And in 2011 they made another policy: we will be the best city for bicycling in the world. And they have a third policy: we will be CO2 neutral by 2025. And as I told you, Copenhagen is very high on all these lists of livable cities. They have many criteria for what makes livable. Of course, means quality of life. Where is the quality of life really good? And Copenhagen and Melbourne in Australia, they are always one or two in most of the lists. And interestingly, we have worked very much with both of them. But again, they are very friendly to people.
friendly.
And they are friendly to bicycles and to walking and to public transportation. And they have what I would call a democratic city planning view, where they think that it's important that people meet in the public space, in the streets, that they want the city not to be privatized and no fenced-in communities and no locked doors. They want it to be an open and welcoming city for people. And they have this policy of making a good public realm, which means good streets, good squares, good public transportation for everyone. That is very important in this policy. And they realize that this policy also gives people a better health, because the more we walk and bike, the longer we live, and the fewer pills we have to have when we get old. And they realize that for many years, especially in America, they've had city planning which invited people to sit and not move.
Either in car,
which was not a smart idea for the health system. And also it was not smart for the climate. So now we have, when we do attractive cities, we have to make them good for the climate and good for the health also, plus attractive. And if you know what makes cities attractive, I wrote a book about it.
Yes.
Just do that. It will work.
Yes.
Here we say that there are four types of cities. There are the traditional city, like the old villages, like Venice, where everybody walk. And everything is done. Then there are the invaded cities where all the cars have come in and pushed people to the side. And also we mentioned the abandoned city where the quality has become so low that people are not anywhere to be seen. And they are deserted, or in the evening completely nothing. And then we say that from around 1980, we start to see the reconquered city. The city where the people have taken back the space, have been given back the space from the motor car generally. And so it becomes more a people city rather than an automobile city. And as I have written about and studied, quality is a very sensitive thing, because it doesn't take much noise and traffic and danger and pollution before it's not so nice anymore. So that's why cities have to be very, very careful with the quality issues, which is also described in this book. We have 12 criteria which you can find in all good places. You can find that nearly all of them are observed. Nostroy was very important because that was in 62. It's very, very many years ago. And if you see pictures of how people looked and how they were dressed, you can see it's another time. Stroy, there was great skepticism about pedestrianizing because it was one of the first cities who did this with a major street. And there were all these tales that it's not for Danish mentality to use space and whatever. But the moment we had the space, we found that it was nice. And then they realized it was very successful also for the businesses. And then they did more and more, and they did every year for 50 years little things until they have been all over the city. So, and it is a change of mindset because ever since the cars came into society in great numbers, there has been a very strong focus on that the major problem in cities was to make the cars happy, to have more roads and more parking, And everybody believed that all politicians, they voted for more cars, and all the voters, when there was election, they said, it's a great problem, we have not enough parking. And from that situation, there of course has been a change of mindset until you realize that you don't get twice as happy by having twice as much traffic. You probably get twice as many problems. So there has been a change of mindset. And my personal work for all these years, 40 years of working, or 45 years of working, has been about change of mindset by pointing to the qualities we lost and saying that if we do this and this, we can regain those qualities, which have been qualities in cities always, historically. Of course.
It's possible.
Yeah. But that's a matter of, it's very much a matter of quantities, and also, so it's a matter of balance. And whatever I have done, it's never against motor cars. It is for people. So we shall make sure that people have a good time.
People have a good time, yes.
And then maybe we also have room for cars. And
so priority is always people.
Because if they don't have a good time, it's not a good city.
And that includes baby and
the whole thing.
All things, yes.
But I could mention one place where you have an interesting mixture. Champs-Élysées in Paris. They have 130 motor cars a day in the middle, and they have 24-meter sidewalk in both sides, full of people and cafes, and they have 2 rows of trees to keep the noise out and keep. So they have a fantastic public space on either side, and they have many cars in the middle. So it's something about organizing the streets so that you can coexist, but also it's a matter of volume. If there are too many, then the quality issues are affected. And you can see here in Copenhagen that they have nearly all the streets now are only 2 lane, one here, one here, because they changed them. They were 4 lanes, or they were just asphalt. But now they are sidewalk, bicycle lane, car lane, median, car lane, so forth. So now we have trees and bicycle lanes and median in the middle. It's much more beautiful.
Yes,
it's much more safe.
Much more beautiful, yes.
And it can take almost as many cars as the old one could.
We are trying to understand what is the pre-war, this residential area that kind of it's much more superior than the suburbs. And it seems
If you take my 12
yes, yeah,
points here,
12 points. Yes.
you can find
Aha.
that
okay.
most of them are made nicely.
Nicely, yes.
And go to the suburbs and do it again and
Mhm.
find that most of them are not made nicely.
Aha.
But I will mention one more thing,
Yes,
which this is very much about this, because for many years, ever since the cars started to come in big numbers, we have developed traffic engineering, and all cities have a traffic department, and all cities have very good statistics about their motor traffic. They count the cars every year, and they have complete maps, and they have prognosis. And traditionally, no city has a department for pedestrians and public life. And traditionally, no city has a department where you have documentation about the life of the city. But the first city in the world who started to have this kind of knowledge about how people use city was Copenhagen. And we have now, for 40 years, completely monitored the life. And that is why also the politicians now are very interested in the statistics about life. They are not only interested in traffic. They have traffic here and life here, and then they can make policy. But most cities have only traffic figures. I guess that's the case in,
That's the case definitely
Tokyo.
in Tokyo and many.
And they
most
know
of
nothing
Japanese
about
cities.
this, or they have no systematic knowledge about this. But in Copenhagen, they pioneered documenting the life. And that is now in the city a department for pedestrians and public life. And they document the life every year. And when we work in this company, we would also say what you count, you see. That means if you have figures and documentation, then you have knowledge, and then you can start to discuss, is this good or is it not good, shall it be better? But if you have no documentation, you tend to forget. So we will always say, make sure that you get data about people. And the work of our firm, we have worked for many years with cities. This is Copenhagen, and you can see the first study was for 68, and they also now have from 2005, 15, and you can see that lately we have been working with London, with Manhattan,
yes.
and Moscow.
That's Moscow. Okay.
And now we also have worked with Shanghai.
Shanghai?
Yeah. And if you're not careful, we come and work with Tokyo. We will. No, my advice is you have to study the life of the city to improve the conditions. If you don't know anything about it, the conditions will generally drop and drop. So to have better focus on the quality for people, you have to have documentation. So you can see, in Moscow we were able to find out that there are no people walking in Moscow because they have filled the whole city with cars and parked cars on the sidewalk. So you cannot walk, and they do not walk. And we did a study where we proved that the worst city in the world for walking was Moscow.
Oh, really?
And then now they are full speed taking away the cars from the sidewalks and putting in benches and trees and bringing back the people to the city streets where they used to be, but then they were pushed out by traffic. they actually had no traffic policy. They just said, let the market, and the market produced many cars. But now it's we call it the miracle of Moscow, because they not only have found out all this, or we have found out all this, but they have the political will to do something about it. So every time you come back, you say, wow, oh. They are changing. Oh my dear. Oh my dear. And so a good advice to a place like Tokyo would be to start to have systematic data about the people in the city. How many children do you have on the streets? What is the conditions? It's not something about studying. You can never study the whole thing, but you can take some key streets and squares and parks, and then get a good idea. Also in New York, you can take part of this and part of that and some piece here. And then you can get an idea and advice. And this led to Broadway being close to traffic.
I was so impressed with the change of Broadway.
That was because we had figures.
Yeah.
We could say there are many more people on the sidewalks. 90% of all people in Times Square, they're on the sidewalk. But they have 10% of the space. The cars have 90% of the space, and they're 10% of the people. So why not give the people more space? So Copenhagen is very attractive because they have taken early an interest in people and have documents which shows how people use it and how more people can use it if you organize it in other ways. And when I retired from university, I got this letter from the mayor saying, if you guys in university had not started to document the people in this city, we as politicians would never have dared to make Copenhagen most livable in the world.
Wow.
We use your documentation to get courage to close the streets and widen the sidewalks and fewer lanes and all this, more bicycle lanes.
Because you're the one who documented that.
No, it was not me. Yeah, I developed these methods, but it is the way that the people are visible. By studying the people, they become visible. You know something. So my advice to cities are, be just as careful with the life of the city as you are careful with the traffic of the city. Not more, no less. Just the same. Ask, if you have 20 traffic engineers here, then maybe you can only have a few people here. It doesn't take so much time. But make sure you have people who systematically monitor how the city is being used and see that it becomes better. That was my contribution to your study.
Thank you very
I
much.
shall go and do some other things now.
Okay, thank you so much.
ヤンゲールさんがですね、12のクライテリア、都市の魅力を構成する上での重要な12のクライテリアのお話をしましたけれども、それに関して少しだけ解説をさせていただきたいと思います。ヤンゲールさんがですね言っていた12のクライテリア、このヤンゲールさんがですね2010年ですかに出されたこの本ですね、Cities for People ですね。これはもう日本語を含めてですね非常に多くの言語で訳されている本ですけれども、これの中にですね12のクライテリアっていうのが書かれております。でちょっとこれ私も本を見ながらですね説明させていただきたいと思いますけど、12のクライテリア大きく3つのカテゴリーに分けられています。で1つはプロテクションですね。プロテクションっていうのは守られていることというふうな意味です。それからコンフォートは快適性とかですね心地が良いと、そういうことになりますね。 あと3つ目がディライト。ディライトは喜びが感じられると、そういうような意味だと思いますけど、プロテクション、コンフォート、そしてディライト、この3つのカテゴリーの中にですね、クライテリアがあるわけですけど、プロテクションでは3つほど、ヤンゲールさん提案してます。何から守られているのかということなんですけど、交通事故ですね、交通事故とかですね、それから自動車交通から守られていること、それが1点目で、2点目はですね、犯罪、そして暴力ですね、これらから守られていること、これが2つ目で、3つ目はですね、不快な体感的にですね、不快な感覚、そういうものから守られているということですね。具体的には風とかですね、雨とか雪、寒さとか暑さ、公害、それから埃とか、それから騒音ですね、こういうものから守られていることというのを挙げています。それがプロテクションの3つです。で、次にコンフォート、快適性、心地よさという項目なんですけど、ここではですね、ヤンゲールさん6つのクライテリアを挙げています。で、どういうこの心地よさかっていうとですね、一つは歩く心地よさですね。歩く機会が提供されているということです。あと2つ目が、立つとだったり、そこにいられるという、そういうですね、心地よさですね、そういう機会が提供されていること。それから3つ目は座るということですね。私今ですね、都心のそばっていうか、都心の中にあるですね、このハウザープラットっていうですね、広場、新しく開発された広場の中にいるんですけれども、ここなんかでもこういうふうな形で座れる環境がしっかり作られてるんですけど、そういう座る機会ですね、が提供されていることを、クライテリアの一つとして挙げています。それから4つ目なんですけど、これは見る、快適性ですね。見る気持ちよさ、見る機会が提供されていることで、5つ目は喋ったり聞いたりすると、そういうですね機会が提供されていると。喋る心地よさとかですね、いろいろ人とおしゃべりをして話したり聞いたりする、そういう心地よさが確保できるということですね。それから6つ目は遊んだり、それから運動したりすると、そういう機会が提供されていること、この6つがコンフォートですね、快適性、もしくは心地よさとでも訳すといいんでしょうかね、そういうののクライテリアとして挙がってます。で、最後にディライトは喜びとして訳すといいと思いますけれども、これでも3つクライテリアがあっておりまして、1つ目はスケールですね。スケールは規模、空間の規模と言っていいと思いますけど、やはりこの建物とですね、それから街路のこの大きさ、空間的な広がりですね。ここなんかもですね、このハウザープラット、見ても分かると思うんですけれども、大体5、6階建てですね、建物が。で、5、6階建てに、それに対して、ちょっと若干ね、いい加減なことは言いにくいですけど、1対 1.5 ぐらいの比率でですね、この空間が作られているような気がしますけど、こういうのもやはりヒューマンスケールで非常にいてですね、気持ちの良さを感じると思うんですけど、こういう、このスケールですね、空間の規模みたいなことを一つ挙げてます。で、2つ目はですね、微気候、先ほど暑さとかですね、寒さ、雨とか雪から守られているということを、一つ重要なクライテリアとしてですね、説明させていただきましたけど、ここは微気候を楽しむと、そよ風とかですね、それからちょっと日光浴ができたりとかですね、心地よい日陰が確保されていると、そういうようなことを、挙げておりますね。で、最後12番目になりますけれども、ディライトの一つとしては、五感が楽しめることを挙げてますね。五感が楽しめるっていうのは、建物のですね、見た目、目が楽しめるような景観の良さとかですね、ファサードの美しさとか、それから木とかですね、ここの、ハウザーフラットにもありますけど、木とか、それから水とか、それから植物ですね、草花、こういうことがですね、重要なクライテリアの一つとして挙げられています。以上12、若干分かりにくい説明かもしれませんでしたけれども、プロテクションで3つ、コンフォートで6つ、そしてディライトで3つほどですね、ヤンゲールさんが、挙げているクライテリアがあるわけですね。はい、以上です。